The following is a conversation with Roy Shilkrot, CTO and co-founder of ContentsPal, an AI company that turns photos, videos, voices into actual content, and is also a professor in computer vision at Tufts University. Roy has worked in the frontier of industry for over 20 years and has extensive experience in startups and software development with numerous amounts of open source tools developed primarily for OBS, a video recording and live streaming platform. He is also the author of morethan.technical.com, a blog website that records insights about code, content, and more. Now, my friends, here's Professor Shilkrot with topics about code and how to prepare for the future. You said that in tech, your social media presence is as important as your GitHub profile. So do you think GitHub open source still matters today since most of the code is generated by AI?
I still think that GitHub is very important, especially for students and people coming out of school and looking for work and to establish themselves as professionals. I think it's arguably watered down. I think the value of like code and showing your code is being watered down. But when I say you should have a GitHub profile, I'm not saying just have a ton of code there. That won't make sense. I think you need to have more impact with your code. If you have projects that have a lot of stars, it doesn't have to be a lot of stars, but let's say they have a lot of downloads, right? If it's like an NPM package, or if it's a PyPy package, if it's a Rust package, whatever, and you get a bunch of downloads, that's great. If you have an application, like an actual application that's open source and people use and download and so on, not necessarily like a lot of stars, but stars are on GitHub. It's like it could be in correlation with the impact of your project. Like a lot of people liked it and thought it's a good idea. So I'm not saying just a lot of code on your GitHub is a good idea. I don't think that's a good idea. It never has been, by the way, but like impactful projects are, I think, definitely a good idea. And what makes an impactful project on GitHub? That's a far deeper question. It could be number of stars and downloads, could be other things. So, I mean, in that regard, yeah, definitely. I would say students should definitely, or young professionals of any capacity will definitely, in software, will definitely benefit from a good, strong portfolio on GitHub.
Okay.
Even so in the age of AI, yeah.
Oh, so it's less about the coding itself. It's just about whether it can generate useful impact or not.
Yeah, because like you said, like you could generate a lot of code now. Very simple. Okay. With one prompt, you can get like a whole application with a lot of files and lines of code, but it really doesn't carry a lot of weight unless people found it useful. So really your goal is not to just write a lot of code and make a lot of projects, is to actually make maybe a few projects, but make them really impactful and seek out the way that they could be impactful.
Okay. My next question is, you have wrote in your no more software left to write, that except for the deepest of technologies, engineering applications have been commoditized to pulp. So do you consider those computer vision methodologies, for example, ULO, as the deep set of technologies?
I think that many of the original computer vision applications were a reflection of what happened at the time. And at the time, it was very impactful and very important and very innovative. But a lot of that innovation went away with the years, and like other methods came in, and like people made discoveries all the time. So I still think that discovery is very important. It's not, with the age of AI, there's no more any currency to inventiveness and innovation. I don't think that's true. I think you could definitely be still very inventive even today, even like with all the AI, and like you can think of something and make it happen. I don't think that the goalpost has moved into what makes something inventive or innovative, but definitely the amount of effort that you have to go through to actually present your ideas well and get a following and get people on board with your ideas and resonate with them, that did become harder work. Where in the past, if you would write write a GitHub, a CVPR paper, if you publish in CVPR, even one paper would guarantee like a good chance of landing a good job or getting into a good PhD program, something like that, and like basically give you like a future in computer vision. I don't think that's true anymore. So even if you do invent something and you are able to like today, even if you invent something that's fairly deep and is interesting technology and interesting idea, now in order to translate that into a good success and like good market success, you need more work. You need more work than that, than just that code, just a thing, and you present it. You kind of need to pursue it more and do some more work. So when I write no software left to right, it means that the bar has been raised. It's not let's not code anything anymore. We definitely have a lot of code to write. Yeah. But the bar has been raised. So for you to create something that's impactful, it needs to pass a higher threshold. That's like my opinion, I think.
Okay. So in your next article, what it takes to succeed today, you said in 5 years, AI will be crushing engineering roles. Jobs will exist, but only for 10 to 100 times engineers with deep AI mileage. I'm very curious, what skill sets does it require for such engineers? For example, whether these kind of engineers should master some certain programming languages, or he has a deep knowledge in math, physics, or just the ability to leverage the power of AI.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent question. And I think so what you just said, like utilizing AI, using AI, that's table stakes now. I think it's table stakes, and not unfortunate. I think it's very fortunate, but I think that's table stakes. If you say, I use Cloud Code for working, it's no longer a bar to go above. Everybody does that. Everybody everywhere. And so that's not enough. I think for engineers of the future to be successful, they need to have, like, a lot of people talk about this. It's kind of like the zeitgeist right now, saying taste is much more important than engineering skill. So knowing what to build is just as important, if not more important, than knowing how to build it, because we're offloading so much to the AI. I think that's in a way it's true. But if you're following more of my writings and my opinions on different platforms and so on, you'll see that I'm trying to get anyone to listen and understand that never in the history of software has the success of software been tied directly to the code. The success of software really almost never has been tied to the actual lines of code. Even if you look at tremendous projects like the Unix kernel, you'll see that it is a living thing. Most of the lines of code that were written 40 years ago have been deleted. It's and replaced with other sorts of mechanisms. It keeps inventing itself. The code that you write really just almost never correlates with the success of the software. And that has been always true. And I think it's true even today, or even more, is that when you're building software, you need to think about the customers or the people using, like the users of the software, or maybe your customers are the developers. If you're building a package for NPM, right? Your customers or the people using it are developers that would use it to solve a problem that they have, or maybe AI agents that will use this to solve a problem that they have. So these are your customers, and you need to think about them. Not so much about the coding. For anything to be impactful, it needs to be good code. It needs to be written very well, right? But really for impact, it's rarely about the code, and it never has been about it. You know? So it's just a long way of saying, if you want to be successful, your skills have to be, you need to be a good engineer, table stakes, but you also need to be a good advocate of your software, a good quote unquote marketing person of your software. You need to make it accessible, impactful in a way. You need to get it out to people or agents or whatever. You need to get it out in a way. And that's a far harder task than actual coding. Anyone can go on Lovable and they can go on Cloud Code and put up a prompt and they will get a nice thing. But the nice thing is most of the time it's useless, especially if it's de novo code, if it's like something that's written out of scratch. Usually it's useless. It's the work that comes after the code is done that's far harder. I mean, you need a lot of iterations and a lot of time to actually get it in the hands of people and solve an actual real problem in the world. That's always has been like this in code.
So it's more about how to ask for the important questions. Okay. So you have also mentioned that social following is vital in the tech industry. Can you list some actual benefits of having social influence? Because for me, I think it's impossible for everyone to have huge, massive amount of social influence. Obviously, most people cannot see the benefits of having social influence.
So my ideas with social and social presence and that sort of, it's just about the impact of your work. You need a sort of platform, like I said.
Like Instagram is a good way for social impact, or Twitter. Which one should be prioritized in terms of tech working in tech industry?
Yeah. My rule is that you need to go where your customers are. You need to go where the people are that are interested in your work, where they congregate. And if they're on Instagram, that's great. If they're on X, that's great. If they're on Facebook, if they're on any other social platform, but if they're on GitHub, which is in many ways a social platform, that's where you should go. Or Hugging Face if you work with AI and models and so on. But it ties back to the same thing, is if you make something and you think it's really cool, you need to get it in the hands of people, or at least make people aware of it for multiple purposes. But I think the foremost one is to increase the impact of your project. You want more people aware of it so that they find it impactful. I think one of the most important pieces of the puzzle here is that in order for people to find it impactful, you need to test it, or you need to let them use it and then give you feedback, and then you'll get better at making it more useful. That's the only way. That's really the only way of getting better with software. Almost all software. So it could be an app, or it could be a package.
Yes.
Or it could be a model, right?
Yeah.
Software always benefits from people giving you feedback and you consistently making it better and better. Usually, and this is marketing, really, not really software, is if you need people to use your thing, you need an audience. You need people to market it to, right? You need a community.
Yes.
And there's many places that communities like that congregate. They go on, some of them go on Instagram, but a lot of them are like on GitHub, on Discord. There's big Discord servers, and on X and so on. Pretty much you need an audience. You need like a town square where you can stand on a crate and can shout out into the crowd and say, hey, people, I have this thing. It's free. Use it and just give me your thoughts. And that's a way to increase the feedback. And YouTube is a great medium. Any of the other social platforms are great mediums. Again, the problem then becomes like, how do you get people to your town square? But you certainly can. And I think that's one of the most important parts of building impactful things, is like getting it to people.
Yes, I agree with that. And the last question that confuses me is that you have mentioned this kind of thing, that it's probably late for some people to start as a software engineer. What advice would you give for a college student who just begin to learn computer science? For example, which direction should they focus? They should focus more coding itself, or just using the low-level tech details, rather than using AI to build more useful stuff directly?
Okay, it's a loaded question. There's a lot of uncertainty right now as to where the market is going and what's going to happen to the profession of coding. I'm in the camp that thinks that coding is not going to go away. If anything, we're only going to see more code, and there's definitely a whole lot of work, and I know that firsthand, a whole lot of work modernizing and rebuilding a lot of existing solutions that are old, dated, they are uncomfortable, they are not ready for the agentic world. A lot of software is like that, many pieces of software. There's going to be a lot of work yet for builders. But you're asking what is a college student?
As a beginner.
Yes, as a beginner. What's a college student to do?
Yeah.
That's a different thing. While I do think that there's a lot of software to write, there's also a lot of existing engineers right now, and people are asking themselves, do we need to train more engineers, seeing that the existing engineers can do a lot more work now with AI? I think this ties back to what we said before, is that if you have impact in your work, even as a student, if you have impact in your work, then you most likely will find work, and you will find a way to get yourself embedded in big organizations or even small organizations, but whatever. But they're actually going to look into your credentials and your portfolio and your resume and your GitHub profile and so on, and be impressed and offer you a job. So I definitely think that this still happens, but it all hinges on the fact that you're actually able to stand up above the crowd and be the signal. You be the signal in the noise. Everyone around you is using Cloud Code to build things, but you're the one building things that are impactful and interesting and inventive and so on. Then you will stand out and you'll be an outlier. And you need to be an outlier to stand out. And the problem is that, again, the bars have been raised. And now to be an outlier and to be someone impactful and so on, you just need to work harder into making your things impactful. So I don't think that it's anything. I don't think it's anything different than what I've said before. It's basically you just need to maximize impact. You just need to stand out above the crowd, be an outlier, and you most likely will be fine. That does require more work now. There's absolutely no doubt. But as a reality check, it always has been like this. It always has been hard for years to stand out. It always has been. And I think now, arguably, it's harder than it has been before. But not impossible. Definitely in certain places within computation and computer science and so on, and software engineering. But same recipe.
Yes. But here comes the final, I think, subsequential question. So there are not only college students who serve as freshmen, there are also students still have several years before entering into tech industry or job market. What do you think they should do?
That's a good question. And not so long ago, there used to be colleges of computing where they would train people in coding, basically. That's it. They would get a degree. It's not a full college degree. It's just a degree in coding. And then you go out and find work. That wasn't very long ago. It was like 15 years ago. So it was very popular. And people would finish that in a year, and then they can go out and find jobs. So you don't have to do a 4-year college degree in computer science in order to be a programmer. You're able to go through a 1-year program, very intensive learning, but then you finish very quickly and you can go and find a job. But many people are not stuck, but like going through this 4-year college programs that they're basically stuck and they need to complete them in order to get the degree. They don't have an early exit from them. To that, I would say there is a lot of impact you can make within the university that you're in. If you're really ambitious and you really want to make something out of yourself, you could use university to be your platform of finding impact and not waste your years, given it's a gift to go out 4 years and not do any work and not be in a rat race, just focus on learning and building yourself. You should basically take that. It's a gift. And universities are great platforms to do all sorts of work, not just engineering work and fattening up your GitHub profile. Arguably, that's not going to matter much. But universities are great platforms for doing a lot of social work, a lot of networking, and obviously a lot of research. If you're interested in that, if you're an ambitious person, you're much better off finding opportunities within your school to advance yourself, making connections with faculty, making connections with other students in other programs in the university, diversifying and not just focusing on coding. I just want to be a software engineer. I don't think it's the best use of your time right now to do a 4-year degree in software engineering. I don't think that's not the best way to make good use of 4 years in university. But if you diversify, you can become like a true scholar and explore many different avenues of research and knowledge in university that are not given to you any other place in the world. I think it's great. I think it's very good but you do need to change and shift your thinking a little bit. If you're thinking about your 4-year degree as a way to train yourself as a software engineer, I don't think that's a very good idea. I think you need to rethink that idea. That's my advice, I would say.
Okay. Thank you very much. That's all of my questions. Thank you for watching this video. Hope to see you next time.